afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast with me, your host, Imperial Dane. Master of Instruction. Today's topic, or sort of area to look at, will be, well, Wehrmacht openings in the year 2018, February so far. I mean, these sort of change from time to time, but hence I'm going to try to stick to sort of more like time period, if you will. We'll see, of course, if this lasts after the next patch when that happens. But so far, I mean, Wehrmacht openings are pretty much sort of very similar. They pretty much sort of tend to follow the basics of you build an infantry company, you get a grenadier squad, you get an MD-42 out, you probably get up to like 2 to 3 grenadiers, maybe 2 MD-42s, mortars also likely. And some might also go for snipers, but generally sort of the opening tends to sort of be about your build roughly 4 to 5 units from the infantry company. A few players sneak in an extra pioneer squad. If they do it pretty much like after they build the infantry company. That way they can seize more territory in the early game. Sort of, you know, that way to grab more territory, and that way you build a better line, so there'd be a bit, you know, more room, more exploration, more having a clear idea what the opponent is doing. But most players will not go there. Depending on what you encounter any early machine guns, for example, against the Brits, that is, for example, not exactly a guarantee. You actually encounter machine guns, a lot of them go for heavy infantry. You might consider mortar to help counter that, but in many cases you'll just go for an additional grenadier squad or an additional MD-42, and then you will tech. For the Wehrmacht, you sort of can't afford in some cases to go for it, though there are openings that are goals for that, in which case you'll go for 4 grenadiers, 1 MD-42, and then you'll actually skip the first battle phase. That you'll just take straight on to the second battle phase, ignoring the light and mechanized company and trying to push out a medium tank as fast as possible. That is also sort of Wehrmacht opening, but it's less common now. The more common ones tend to be 2 to 3 grenadiers, 1 MD-42, maybe 2, maybe mortar, or maybe a sniper. That's sort of less the sort of clear bits, but generally, so the very core of it is 2 grenadiers, 1 MD-42, no matter what. Beyond that, though, it will sort of slightly vary in sort of what you want to do then. Tag up, usually again within the first 10 minutes. Yeah, that's sort of what you call sort of the opening phase, sort of roughly somewhere between 5 to 6, 7 minutes. It sort of ends up, you sort of slowly move into sort of the early game from the opening, and then sort of moves towards the mid game. So we got like to make a nice company. Of course, again, very standard stuff for most builds, unless again you're going for very heavy tier 1, in which case you're trying to play more aggressively with the grenadiers. Of course, push ahead with that. Also using smoke in some cases, of course, to help, you know, obscure your opponent's machine guns. Very good. And of course, you can hit your opponent's, you know, fuel points, cut them off. Also, very good part of any Wehrmacht opening. Generally, as the Wehrmacht, you want to secure your own fuel, but you also want to try and disrupt your opponent's fuel. You want to sort of try and have build a fuel advantage, because the Wehrmacht, your tech is probably the most expensive, time-consuming, meaning whatever edge you can get in terms of tech, which means, of course, denying them resource, slowing down their tech, is going to be absolutely powerful and, in fact, downright necessary. So, trying to focus on your own fuel and your opponent's fuel, less on victory points, I think tends to be sort of more critical for the Wehrmacht. In a lot of cases, they're not all, but in a lot of cases, it tends to be sort of the best idea to focus on the fuel points. And of course, you know, securing on, of course, they're strong, sort of a nice, sort of stable line of defense. So it's also important for the Wehrmacht, having sort of a nice combined arms core that sort of functions as your Schwerpunkt, which is sort of the part of the German doctrine where sort of, you know, it was the main core efforts, or the main point of effort, sort of where everything was happening. That was known as the Schwerpunkt. That's sort of basically where all the attack hand from, the defense hand from. There's basically all things originated from. There's all that's centered around. So in that regard, as the Wehrmacht, you also kind of want that, you know, where so many machine guns into all that work from. You might do a RAF from another point, but there'll generally be sort of a point that's sort of just more core to you than any other point. 2 to 2s are also quite useful. Some players will go for 1. I personally like to go for 2, but that's sort of more of a tactical preference on my behalf. But a single 2 to 2, Pack 40 tend to be common. Some players like to go for Panzer Grenadiers, particularly versus an opponent with a lot of infantry, but no upgrades for the infantry. Panzer has been pretty good. Versus an opponent with not a lot of infantry, Panzer Grenadiers can also be pretty good. But again, some players will just stick to the Grenadiers, particularly if they got doctrines, so not for your command squad. Stormtroopers are just a lot of G43s. There are numerous options there in the 2 to 2 that hit the man. That's rather unfortunate there for fire and terror. But those are sort of the, shall we say, main pointers to any Wehrmacht opening in the sort of game at the moment. I mean, there are very few subset of players who will go for like 2 to 3 pioneers, 2 to 3 machine guns. To a total of 5 units. They'll not go for like 3 pioneers, 3 MD-42s, unless they're nuts. And then they'll just quickly move on to the next, you know, tier. Get like to make a nice company and begin pushing out Panzer Grenadiers, maybe a flamethrower half tank, maybe an anti-tank gun. but they'll definitely begin then using this one a lot more. But that's an incredibly rare strategy at the moment. You can go for it, but it's a lot more tricky and does require a lot more training. And as an early player, you might run into a lot more trouble. Again, the sort of more standard, basic, and also more secure strategy for now is just 2 grenadiers, 1 MD42 minimum, and then usually adding like 2 other units depending on what you feel like you need against the situation. Tag up, get a few units from like to make a nice company, and then you try to push as fast as possible onto the battle phase. You know, third battle phase, get up Supremaco, in which case you'll go for either Panzer IVs, Stugs, depending on how far you're actually behind. If your opponent's actually got tanks out, you'll go for Stugs. Always Stugs. If you're ahead, you go for Panzer IVs, Austrians or something, go later for. If after all that your opponent keeps pushing up infantry, you'll go for Austrians. But again, ours, part of the opening and just part of the strategy you want to do in the opening is to look to A, secure as much fuel for you and deny your opponent as much fuel as possible. That way you want to slightly leverage things so your opponent has less response, less chance to build ahead of you, and that way you can sort of gain a slight arm advantage, which is what you want as the Wehrmacht, because your tanks are otherwise actually comparatively not as good as the Allied medium tanks. So that sort of thing covers sort of how Wehrmacht openings sort of currently work as the Wehrmacht, sort of also just the early strategy for a lot of Wehrmacht players in the current game. Of course, different doctrines sort of give you slight changes to it. Jaeger infantry, of course, is reasonably popular. You can go for Storm if you're that type of player, though that one is, I think, is slightly more for veteran players as well. So there you go. Let me know if you like this sort of video here. I'll probably do more than on the British, Soviet, USF and Oberkommando West openings and sort of early opening strategies, and what they're sort of, usually, about. So thank you all for joining in. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have again, so subscribe, like it. Let me know in the comments if you like it. Overall, I mean, that of course, make it a lot easier for me to keep making videos about this topic, for example, if this is something that interests people. And if you'd like me to do, donations are more than welcome. Links in the video description. I do try to do this for a living, so every little bit helps me a ton. So thank you all, and see you all another time for another video. Cheers.